Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, a place where we demystify complex technologies every day and provide real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping entire industries. But we do all this in a language that everyone can understand. And today we're going to demystify the world of music licensing and all of its complexities. More specifically, how a company called Tracklib has automated sample licensing to the benefit of both the music creator, who consists of the artists, producers and songwriters, and the superstars and budding talent, and the rights holders such as labels and publishers. So how does this new creative collaborative community work? And let's say you've got a great dance tune that you want to create, but you're just missing a flugelhorn trombone multi-track, and you're convinced that that's all you need to make your song a big hit. How would you go about getting that sample? Well, today's guest is Pär Almqvist, and he caught my attention when he said there is a big positive implication from knowing that you can sample something and not be afraid of being sued. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Stockholm in Sweden to learn more about how one startup is rewriting the rules of sampling and essentially putting power and money back into the hands of artists, all by leveraging technology. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much. Great to be here. My name is a strange Swedish name. So it's Pär Almqvist. You pronounce the first name sort of like a pear, the fruit, or a pair of jeans, or a stereo pair. So I'm co-founder of a company called Tracklib. And I was the CEO for many years. I'm the CCO now as in Chief Content Officer, which is where a lot of my passion is. So I manage our music catalog, our relationships with rights holders, our vision. I'm the spokesperson for the company as well, and partnerships. So that's what I do. I'm born Swedish. I've lived and worked globally for more than 2 decades now, I think, including Canada and the US and Turkey and India and many other places.
Wow, I thought I spend a lot of plates there. That's amazing. And I've got to ask, if I was to take you way, way back, can you share your origin story? How did the worlds of tech and music collide for you? There's got to be a story there, right?
There actually is a story there, and an interesting one. I've always loved music, and my parents actually met in a choir, even though my dad really can't sing. It was a choir desperate for more sort of male participants as well. I started playing the piano at 5. I played trumpet in music school. We have in Sweden free music school available to anyone called the Culture School today. So I played the trumpet first. I switched to accordion. I sold my accordion after a couple of years and invested in a home studio, in a MIDI studio in the mid-90s. And in parallel to that, I also started creating websites. I think Netscape was in 0.94 beta at the time, so quite early days in 94. So I had both sort of music tech in terms of producing music, and also tech in terms of building the web from quite early on. And then in terms of a daytime job, I went into web design and development, and a bit of advertising, and I kept music as really my passion and hobby along the way. So I started out working for web and advertising companies, then I started my own, and then I started building companies. So I've actually built 2 companies in India that became World Economic Forum tech pioneers. One was solar-powered base stations. The other one is today the world's largest distributed solar power company in rural India. I've told a lot of people sort of after doing solar power in rural India, you're ready to take on music rights, but I guess we'll get to that later on. So that's how it combined. And at the same time as I was building things and communicating, I got a #1 song on iTunes in the jazz category in 2005, I think it was, because I decided to sort of see, can I take my hobby and my passion of music and actually put music out? So that was a sort of a proof point. But I've always had it as mainly a hobby in terms of making music. So in terms of building things and building companies, I spent years building first voice over IP and then telecom and then power. And in all the way back to 2013, all of these things, I mean, the experience of music and building companies and working with communication and sort of designing new things for new markets really came together when we started looking at Tracklib, with the idea of really building a service that makes copyrighted music available for sampling and licensed use to every creator in the world. So it builds on just a lot of experience and making a lot of mistakes along the way, hopefully learning from some of them.
I love that. And obviously that path would eventually lead you to Tracklib. And I think after 2,200 interviews, I think you're the first person I've spoke to that's had a number one on iTunes. But can you expand on the problem you set out to solve with Tracklib, especially around the complexity of music licensing? Because it is an absolute nightmare, isn't it? And I'm sure you still get cold sweats just thinking about it and flashbacks, right?
I still do to this day, and music rights are very complicated, and arguably a reason why the full potential of this industry is held back is because the complexity around music rights. Fortunately, the complexity in itself is quite easy to explain. Music rights, sort of summarized or in a simple way, are split in two. You have master rights or recording rights, tangible rights on one end. And then you have publishing rights or intangible rights on the other end. And to use something, if you and I wanted to use something as a soundtrack for a podcast or as a sample of a new song, you need all these different parties to agree. You need both sides to agree. So it means that licensing of music is a manual and complex and time-consuming, expensive and quite anxiety-inducing process to most people. So most opportunities actually don't happen. Most deals don't go through. So creators, whether you're starting out or whether you're very established or whether you're a large company, either don't use original music or pirate or use royalty-free instead. Yeah. So really, this hurts. Ultimately, this hurts the industry. It hurts artists, producers, songwriters, music rights holders like labels and publishers. Everyone is losing out, and the whole industry losing out, really. And the quality of music, you could argue, is lowered, or music actually being used. So I think few things hold back the music industry like the manual nature of music licensing. So that's what we started looking at. Can we make music licensing what it isn't today, which will be fast and easy and legal and affordable and really available to every creator? Can we really turn it from manual and bespoke into something available for everyone? That's the problem we set out to solve.
So essentially then, Tracklib has automated sample licensing and basically, I think, to benefit music creators. But can you walk me through how it works just for any recording artists that might be listening? Yep.
And to accomplish sort of automation and to build an automated model, we had to create a new model, for accessing the music, find out how do we deal with license fees, how do we deal with the revenue share in the end, etc. And, if you're a music producer, just to sort of walk through the journey of how this works, you start by signing up for a subscription. And that subscription, we have several different plans depending on what you need. But a subscription essentially gives you access to our catalog. So you can download studio quality WAV files. So both the master track, the stereo recording that you might be listening to on Spotify or a vinyl, but also in many cases, the unique multi-tracks or stems that composes the song. So if the song is the molecule, if you will, the multi-tracks are all the atoms that build the song. So uniquely, we have a lot of music where you can only access the multi-tracks on Tracklib. So just get the vocals or just get the drums, etc., from the original studio recordings. So the most affordable subscription plan we have is $5.99 a month, so pounds or dollars or euros. And if you create something then that you want to release, you get a sample license from us. Commonly, they cost $50 or £50. That's I would say around 97% of our catalog. It's very affordable. And in the sample license, you also agree to share a percentage of income from the new song with the original publishers and the labels. That's really the model. So subscription to access and download a license when you want to release a new song that contains a sample, and then you also agree to revenue share.
So do you have any, I don't know, examples or use cases that will just help anyone listening, just help it bring it to life for them? Because I suspect you've got so many different people using different samples for different reasons. But do you have any use cases you can share?
There are so many.
Yeah.
We have both top artists, like truly top artists and producers that use the platform, as well as a lot of people just starting out. If we look on the sort of top end of things, J. Cole, American artist, his song Middle Child, which is now 7 times platinum, is found through Tracklib. So he found the sort of flugelhorn multi-track, or his producer did. So it was really Cole, the artist, who told T-, the producer, about Tracklib. And then the song is created around this flugelhorn and trombone multi-track, which comes from a 1973 recording by the band First Choice. The song is called Wake Up to Me. And uniquely, when they went in, they liked the song, but when they heard just this sort of flugelhorn and trombone multi-track, and they found a section in there that is the da 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 da, da, which is the sort of the driving theme of the whole song. That's of course a great example. It's a huge song, close to 1 billion streams just on Spotify today. Then Kendrick Lamar's latest album that was out this year has a big Tracklib sample on it. The latest album by Nas, US rapper as well, was just recently released, features a Tracklib sample. So, I mean, these are just, some of the big artists using this. If we look on the other end, in terms of labels that have supplied the music, we have become, to many of them, the number one source of revenue. So the label like GD Soul Records in Nashville, we're now the number one source of revenue, surpassing physical, digital, all other sources, just from people actually sampling through Tracklib, which is a beautiful thing. In Brazil, there's a children's music group called Trupe, based in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And they also see a majority of their income now coming from Tracklib, with people sampling their music, which, they couldn't even have dreamed up. And, other parts of it in the journey of building Tracklib, we've also allowed budding producers to collaborate with a star, really making dreams come true. So we've done placement competitions with Redman and Royce the 5'9" and Dave East. We're right now doing a competition where the winner will get to record a song in the studio with CeeLo, which is a great thing. So we're working with these amazing established artists, and we have this big user community of people that are really, really talented producers, but it's hard to get into the industry. So we've facilitated some of these connects. And then on the other, when it comes to people just starting out, we've seen people, that have done sample-based music, but haven't been able to clear the music for commercial use, actually building their artist careers, which is great. And another story, which I love, is a Swedish, very talented producer and artist, Jimmy, who licensed, I think, 23 songs to us. And he's now been sampled by Brockhampton and Young M.A. and Fantagram have sampled his music as well, right? So it's there are a lot of stories here, but what's beautiful is seeing, this is really helping creators. It's really helping people owning music. It's creating new opportunities in a way that, it's new. I mean, this sort of opportunity, this revenue didn't exist before. I would say, to bring sampling to life, someone might be listening and thinking, what is sampling? Sampling the practice of taking a piece of an old recording and using it as an ingredient in a new song, if you will. I would recommend everyone to check out our YouTube channel where we do sample breakdowns. So we show how popular songs are actually created using parts of old songs as well, and visualizing that. So Tracklib on YouTube to understand sampling.
Yeah, and I think one of the obvious examples would be the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, right? When he used the track from the Stones. I think they didn't get paid for years because of that, right?
It's true. And there are many different flavors of, you can use the original song, but record it yourself, in which case it's a replay or interpolation. There are always these sort of, different ways of using parts of old music. But what we found, and I didn't know that when starting the company, is just how popular sampling is. You look at everything from Britney Spears' Toxics over to, Daft Punk's One More Time, over to, obviously a lot of great, both classic and modern hip hop. But a lot of music is created using ingredients from previously existing recordings. But the level and the scale of it, we didn't even know when starting the company.
Wow. And I'm curious, what kind of feedback have you received from creators? Because it seems fantastic what you've created here. And I always say on the podcast that technology works best when it brings people together. And you seem to be uniting creative people around the world with technology. And what kind of feedback have you received from them as a result?
We've been, I think, both astounded and humbled and positively surprised and a bit shocked, but in a very nice way, by just the support, because it's what we dreamed of in starting Tracklib is for people to see and realize, the value of it and actually start using it. People love the service. I think we have a very passionate user community, and we've received a lot of public outspoken support from everyone from Questlove to Ludacris. They've just said, can we provide a positive endorsement of this? Because what you're doing really, we believe in it, which I think is quite unique. So, I think the ability to, Prince Paul actually said this, Prince Paul, legendary producer. I mean, everyone knows De La Soul, right?
Yeah.
He said, this is really sampling without looking over your shoulders, and it's been that ability has been sought after for decades, sampling without looking over your shoulder. So I think from amateurs, from budding artists, from producers starting out all the way to sort of A-list artists and superstars, we've received a lot of endorsements. So we have a creators advisory board that we put together where Prince Paul joined in, then Eric Sermon, Drummer Boy and Zaytoven also joined in. Scott Storch joined in, as well as No ID. And they joined in because they believe in the company. But we've received lots of endorsements, also available on tracklib.com under testimonials. And we're still positively shocked just at the support we've received, I think, for what we do.
Yeah, it's amazing. And apologies for interrupting the interview, but this podcast is brought to you by Flipper, the #1 marketplace to buy and sell online businesses and startups. So my quick question to you is, do you own or run your own online business? And have you ever considered selling your site, your store, your tech, or your app? Well, with world-class combined matching technology, dedicated brokers and end-to-end services, all at the most efficient price, Flipper makes selling your online business simple. So to get a free valuation, simply visit flipper.com/techtalks, where each month thousands of online business owners exit with Flipper. Again, to learn more, visit flipper.com/techtalks. But now back to the interview. If there is somebody that's new to the industry, or somebody just looking for a niche sound, like, let's say, the flugelhorn and trombone multitrack, can you just walk me through how they can get up and running? So they arrive at your site, right, Tracklib, and then how do they get up and running?
Well, what you do is you just sign up. There's obviously a free trial as well. You need to swipe your card, and nothing will be charged as such. So you get time, a couple of weeks to check it out. And the big part is, of course, to explore the music catalog. And again, we built the service uniquely for not listeners, but for those that create music. And where you end up sort of off the bat is in our browse section, where we have really good, I would say, curation. So real people that, are curators that pick out music from our library, make collections. It can be everything from monthly digs for what happened in November, what happened in December, to highlighting different tracks, to themed collections, everything from lo-fi oldies to legendary jazz to dramatic themes, etc. And then you can see what's popular, what's newly added. We have collections of music inspired by music used and sampled by different very well-known groups and artists. Focus on vintage library music, where we just brought in a lot. And then there's a global section with music from all around the world. We're working with big name producers, from Liam Howlett, who actually reached out to us early on and really to support the service, to Just Blaze, to, Nicole Buss, the artists, people even supplying music to us that want to help curate parts of the catalog. And then having multi-tracks that we do a special focus on vocals that you can only find on Tracklib. So it's like this dream record store that you walk into, but it's made for you as a producer. And we really put a lot of time and care and technology and people into creating a unique discovery experience. So that's where most people start.
Love it. And on this podcast, every day I speak to someone in a different part of the world. And I always try and put that part of the world on the map, especially from a tech scene point of view. So we get to hear stories outside of Silicon Valley. And I have spoken with several startups from Sweden recently, such as I think it was Sesame, Another Block, and there was a few others. Right. But can you tell me more about the tech scene over there? Because from the outside looking in, it feels like there's something quite special happening there.
I suppose it is. I mean, I think it's a really good tech and startup scene generally here in Stockholm and in Sweden generally. It's vibrant for sure. It's a lot of companies, I think, maybe driven by sort of free university education, broadband early on, many different factors. There's been a lot of people congregating here, building companies. I feel it's open. I feel it's quite sociable and open to new ideas, new connections, new collaborations. I think traditionally Swedish culture, and you might hear this from expats moving over here, and is that it is quite sort of flat. I think we're not that much into hierarchy or formality. That can be quite strange and unusual to people, but I think it's because of that pretty easy to get in touch with anyone, and you'll get a response. And I mentioned some of the factors that I've reflected on, as in free higher education, healthcare, high-speed broadband, good public transport, all of these things kind of contribute. So it's a safe and pretty educated place to be, which helps. Yeah. And I think when it comes to Tracklib specifically, I would say we're pretty isolated in a way. I mean, we've mainly collaborated with companies outside of Sweden. We have a lot of customers, of course, in the US and many other parts of the world. But if I look at the scene here, it is very open for collaboration, and we worked actually with a number of course, Swedish companies, from Electron, makers of amazing equipment for music production, to Propellerhead, to many other companies here.
Wow, it's so refreshing to hear as well, especially when I look inwardly at the UK, and we've got the dreaded class system that has held the country back for so many years, and polarisation and division. It's so nice to hear this almost utopia with openness and collaboration and people working together. That's where the magic happens, isn't it?
It is. I think we need more of that. And I think arguably we're a very quite small country. Arguably we were isolated for quite some time, because why would you go up here? The weather can be dreadful. But I think generally openness. I think hopefully, the world is a complex place, but my hope is that we can move into a place of less fear and more collaboration. That's hope.
100%, yeah. I'm curious, what kind of tech trends excite you right now? We're all heading into a brand new year. Is there anything that excites you or you're monitoring from afar?
I think one, and we spoke about collaboration now, one of them is actually collaboration about sort of community generally, in how people exchange ideas, how you create new things together. And I think we'll see more in creator communities, collaborative communities grow. I'm excited about AI generally. I think for creation, that more as an exoskeleton that makes it stronger and gives us more capability rather than the replacement. I think the fear around AI is sort of, but then what will we do? Won't there be music producer? Won't there be artists? I think it just gives us more tools and more capabilities. I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about new sort of marketing tech for artists to build their careers. That's one of the biggest challenges today, obviously, with 100K plus tracks added to Spotify every day, is anyone can get a song on a streaming service, but how do you get found, right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of things happening in marketing tech that I think is exciting. Back to, collaboration, I think online collaboration will continue to thrive. I think the whole trend on recreation as well is built on that. The idea of sort of, there is a piece of content or music or video, and you as a viewer or listener can build on that. I think that's something that, you know, we'll see a lot more of. So new tools and services around collaboration. Community, again, is interesting. I think not only services to share things, but where you can discuss and engage and sort of learn and relate. And I think back to AI, because again, there is so much discussion and fear around it, especially in the music industry. I think the fear is vastly exaggerated, and in a way, AR likely will be more dominant than VR. I believe in that thesis, and I believe, again, AI as an exoskeleton is the future. So AI powered tools that will help inspire us, that will help us do things quicker and sort of automate boring and tedious things. So sort of more room to create. So it's a new toolbox. And so, you know, generally creation has been solved. It's easier than ever to create. Distribution has been solved. And I think scale now becomes the challenge. What happens when this much music and video gets created, you know, and how will that affect services? And how do you get discovered again? I mean, that's where I think we'll see naturally a lot of innovation.
Wow, exciting times. I love how you described it there as a creative toolbox. And I think that's exactly what it is. And when we can spend less time doing that boring, mundane and repetitive stuff and focus more on the creative, incredibly exciting. But is there anything you can share about what we can expect next for Tracklib? Any teasers about what we can expect in 2023? I have some things I'd love to share that I can't just yet, but I'll let you know very as soon as I can. So I'll get back to you early next year. But we have things in the works for both collaboration and community. We are working on some really substantial innovations in licensing. So that's in the I'll share with you very soon, but I can't just yet box. We just started a community for sampling music producers and artists on Discord, which already has quite a big membership, and it's open. You can apply. So I would recommend that. It's tracklib.com/community, I think. And because it didn't exist. I mean, when it comes to just a forum for people that create music and specifically work in sampling, you know, we thought and we realized, you know, there's something we could do here. So it's already turning into a vibrant community. And we are working on a feature coming up very soon that makes it easier to collaborate, and that also gives people exposure for the music that they've created. So I know that's a little fluffy, but no, it's good.
But I can share more concrete details actually early next year. So
okay, you've left us with some teasers. We need to get you back on next year. And of course, one of the things I always say on this podcast as well is we very often focus on the summit, the person at the top of that mountain and the success they've achieved. But of course, the real learning happens on the climb to the summit. So I'm curious, as someone that's achieved great success in your career, are there any funny or interesting stories that have happened in your climb to that summit?
I've made a lot of mistakes. I think anyone, you know, there are many quotes around this. I don't know if it's incorrectly attributed to Churchill, but you know, planning is everything, plans are nothing, or all plans crash and in touch with reality. And you have all these assumptions. I think the learning, a good driving force is to be curious and to actually dare to test things and make mistakes. You know, one thing I could share is actually when I worked in India, this was back in 2006. That's first when I was over in India, and we were building a voice over IP service. So really Skype for the mobile before Skype existed. This was for Pocket PC, if anyone remembers those existing, right? So we were maintaining, and I was working at the time a lot with our communication and our UI and our, you know, websites, all of this. And I was still coding then. And I maintained this mobile website and this public website that looked gorgeous, you know, in the full browser. And I was doing an all-nighter, not an all-nighter, but burning a bit of midnight oil, finishing everything, uploading it to the server. And then mid-upload, I get this sinking feeling, and I'm realizing I'm now overwriting the whole public website with a mobile website just before launch. I turned from this, you know, fully fledged bells and whistles, interactive kind of, you know, voice over IP experience in your browser into this slimmed down mobile version. And I didn't have any backups. So, you know, I learned from this, always backup, Before you upload something, make sure that you know where you're uploading it. So all these learnings, but I had to spend the greater part of a week, 24/7, rebuilding everything from scratch, which delayed our launch. They had all these effects. It was not a good thing. The great thing is the people I worked with were really understanding, and they're like, okay, we can't go back, we can't recreate this, just solve it. And it's also learning that I brought on board is nobody wants to make a mistake. I mean, everyone wants to perform and do good things, and when things actually don't go as planned, there's no use in telling someone you've made a mistake, because they know. Yeah. All you can do is try to learn from it, in the best possible way.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. And of course, we started the podcast talking about your origin story and what put you on this path that you're on right now. So I'm going to have a bit of fun with you now and ask you, can you leave us today with either a book that has inspired you or a song that we can add to our Spotify playlist? All I'm going to ask is, what are you going to leave us with and why?
Can I share both?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So a song that comes to mind, actually, which is a personal favorite, and back to the UK, Goldie, Inner City Life, right?
Yeah.
I sort of discovered it at a really transformative, sort of impressionable moment in my life when I was about 17. And I went over to London together with a group of friends, and I discovered record shops and drum and bass culture, and this was amazing, right? And this track, I think, Inner City Life, captures that feeling of inner city pressure in a really good way. It's like few others. It sounds super fresh today when you listen to it. Goldie's, I think I heard this from someone that he even pushed the engineers working his DAW system to create features, that he wanted to do things in the software that wasn't possible in the software. So he ended up pushing the software development teams, saying, this is what I want to do. And it samples actually Ike Turner's Funky Mule, and I didn't discover that until recently. So true fact. So Inner City Life by Goldie as a song. I think as for a book, something that inspired me, I've personally sort of studied Buddhism and mindfulness and practiced meditation since I was quite young, and even knowing or learning the things I did, I really appreciate a book called The Power Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's a well-known book. I think it was featured on the Oprah Winfrey show, actually. So it's one of these top sellers. But to me, even though I knew some things and had some insights about mindfulness, I think Eckhart manages to boil down, thousands of years of Eastern spiritual tradition in a super simple and understandable and relatable way, right? So when I read it the first time, probably 15 years ago-ish, it was transformative. I mean, it turned me, at that point, I sort of lost my practice. It turned me back into practicing and meditating again. And I think it really works for a novice, just being curious about this. It works for someone that's done it for a while. And I think looking at where the world is right now, there's a slight bit of turmoil. I think we could all use a dose of mindfulness and a bit more compassion, to ourselves and to others in the world generally. So that's the choice.
Oh, great choices. Well, I'll get that book added straight to our Amazon wish list. And of course, Goldie, Inner City Life, that's going straight on the Spotify playlist. I'm really looking forward to that. I've not heard that in a few years. And Goldie actually was brought up just, I think, 10 miles away from where I live. So,
really?
In the West Midlands. I think it's from Warsaw originally. So I'll be adding that to the Spotify playlist. And for anyone listening, just wants to find out more information about Tracklib, have a look around, maybe even reach out to your team and ask a few questions. What's the best starting point for everything?
I would go for the service itself. It's tracklib.com. Spelling is tracklib as in liberation or library. So tracklib.com. The community is at tracklib.com/community, and you'll find us at Tracklib is the username on Insta or YouTube or TikTok, etc. And if you want to get in touch, just send an email to hello@tracklib.com.
Awesome. We covered so much today, from the creative, collaborative community that you're creating to flugelhorn and trombone multitrack. That's one that will stay with me for a long time. And of course, the music licensing and its complexities, all washed down with your personal origin story and having time to live is with a great book and a great tune to boot. So thanks so much for joining me today, Pär. And hopefully we'll get you back on next year and find out more about those teasers you left us with today.
Thank you very much, Neil. Pleasure to be here.
And I think we covered so much there, from demystifying the world of music licensings and its complexities to how you too can just get that sample that you need for your next big hit, whether that be a flugelhorn, trombone, multitrack, whatever it might be. But if you're listening in the music industry, obviously I'm essentially a moderator for all these tech conversations each day. This is going to be your area of expertise. I'd love to hear your opinion, your insights, your experiences with everything we've talked about today. And maybe you've got a few other things you'd like to share too, or a question. Whatever it is, I want to hear from you. And there are many ways that you can contact me. Simply email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you would like to slide into my DMs and send me an audio message on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, you can find me at Neil C. Hughes. I always like to finish every episode by saying technology works best when it brings people together. And the fact that you tune in every single day further proves that point. So I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. But a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.